So let's start with the prompt like always. Which finding would weaken the potential explanation? So when you're looking to weaken the explanation or weaken anything, you definitely want to be extra cautious there because our brain will unconsciously go back toward looking for the right answer. In other words, strengthening the conclusion. So we have to be careful with that. Let's start reading. Many governments that regularly transfer money to individuals to provide supplemental income, for example, have done so electronically, but other countries have distributed physical money and have only recently developed electronic transfer infrastructure. Researchers studied the introduction of an electronic transfer system in one location and found that the recipients of electronic transfers consumed a different array of foods than recipients of physical transfers of the same amount. One potential explanation is that the individuals conceive of and allocate funds in physical money differently than they conceive of and allocate funds in electronic form. So they're finding that people who get electronic money rather than physical money tend to buy different stuff. Now, what we should notice is that they're not saying they buy more or less, they simply consume a different array of foods. And the explanation is that people conceive of and allocate funds in physical money differently than they would do so for electronic money. So let's look at the answers. A. Recipients of electronic transfers typically spend their funds at a slower rate. So now the idea of a slower rate, it would actually support the view because it's kind of it's saying that they conceive of it differently. So if they spend one thing slower and the other thing faster, that would actually strengthen. That's why we don't like A. B says nearly every recipient of the electronic transfer withdrew the entire amount in physical money shortly after receiving the transfer. That could weaken it because if they're immediately converting it into physical money, then it's all the same. Before they had physical money and now they have physical money. So that would maybe weaken the explanation because it means, you know, what's the difference? They're just doing the same thing they did before, even though they're sort of getting the initial payment differently. But after that, it's all physical money, just like before. And C, recipients of physical transfers tended to purchase food about as frequently as recipients of electronic transfers did. I would say how often they buy food, it doesn't strengthen or weaken because the claim was that they were consuming a different array of foods. So, not the frequency, not how often they buy food, but which food they buy is what we're talking about here. So, I don't think that's strengthening or weakening. And D, some recipients of the physical transfers receive small amounts of money relatively frequently, while others receive large amounts relatively infrequently. Well, here we're comparing physical recipients to each other. So there's one type of physical recipient and another type of physical recipient. But what we were supposed to be comparing is the physical and the electronic recipients. So the one that seemed to weaken the claim here was answer choice B.